Medfield TV presents Meet the Candidates, interviews with our citizens running for local offices. This series is brought to you by the joint efforts of Carol Mayer, Town Clerk, Kevin Murphy, Medfield High School Social Studies teacher, and Aditi Tate, Cheryl Dunley, and the staff of Medfield TV. I'm Caroline Arcari from Medfield High School. I'll be posing questions to the candidates. She'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the end of the question period, the candidate will have additional minutes to address the audience. Today I'm interviewing Teresa James. She's an incumbent running for the office of the Planning Board. The position is for a 5-year term. There's one position open. She's running unopposed. How are you doing today, Mrs. James?
I'm doing great, Caroline. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. My first question is, why do you want to run for the office of Planning Board?
Well, you know, I started my involvement with the Planning Board when I became an associate member in 2015. And just last year, one of our Planning Board members had to resign, so I stepped in to fill that role in the Planning Board. So I just kind of feel like I'm getting my training wheels off. So I guess the question would probably be better posed as, why would I not? I'm just getting started.
It's exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting.
What experience have you had in the past that will help you in this new position?
Well, for 17 years, I was a CIO at a design firm, which offered a lot of design services. And so as their technologist, I got to see the planning effort with master planning in place from the consultant side. And then 3 years ago, I got involved with the Mid-State Master Planning Committee because I was interested in being on the other side of the fence and experiencing it from the public perspective, and as well as I have a fondness for the Mid-State property. And so what a great opportunity to make my first civic volunteer effort by joining the Mid-State Master Planning Committee. So from that, though, from that first experience over that first year, I really began to understand what important involvement our residents of our town have in our civic government. I actually grew up in the Midwest in Missouri. So there in the Midwest, you elect your town officials and they run your city council, your governance, and all of that. We don't have all of these volunteer appointed boards that I have become familiar with over that course of time. So I really became interested in then through that involvement with the Mid-State Master Planning Committee, got involved then at the associate position for the Planning Board. And then I've been also on the Town Master Planning Subcommittee for a little while, looking at that strategy and how we can do that for our town. So it's all those life experiences that drive us to success, and it's really about collaboration and finding common ground and listening to all the different various parties to progress Medfield forward. And whether it be my teaching career, my technology experience, my entrepreneurial endeavors, my volunteer efforts, or my Midwest roots, I find that I'm good at solving problems, collaborating, and finding that common ground.
That's great. That's really great. There's one thing that you'd like the voters to know about you. What might that be?
Oh, gee, one thing. I like roller coasters.
Me too.
Excellent. And but seriously, I stay really committed to my efforts and what I volunteer for, and this is actually a big commitment, being a 5-year appointed position.
Mm-hmm, definitely. What's the biggest challenge in facing the town of What's the biggest challenge facing the town of Medfield? How might you approach this on your committee?
Well, there's several big initiatives. Obviously, the one that I started working with 3 years ago, the Mid-State Hospital Master Planning Committee, what we do and how we choose to use that land that our town chose to control is really important. And those community decisions that we choose will bubble up into action for all the town boards and the town government. So that decision is really important, and I encourage all members of our community to make sure that you're following mshvision.net and participating in the public input sessions that we have. Another big topic, obviously, and I know we'll talk about it more, is affordable housing. And last fall, the Planning Board adopted the Housing Production Plan, which was one big step. However, in that plan, in studying of why we have a deficit of 139 affordable units. And the state mandates us to have a 10% housing stock of our housing inventory. And so that's another big topic that the town needs to address, is continuing to, okay, we adopted a plan, but we need to continue implementing that plan and finding ways to reduce that deficit in a reasonable fashion.
Mm-hmm. A big issue with the town of Medfield's board and elected offices is communication. How do you plan to reach a broader audience if elected and provide more transparency?
Well, you're exactly right. Communication is really key, because if we know about issues and we know what's going on, I have found the community of Medfield to get very involved and voice their opinions. Pete Peterson, Richard DeSorga, Mike Riccucci, our board, some of the Board of Selectmen have shown some real positive ways, the way they disseminate the information. I think our town has probably, because I'm a technologist, I think we probably have some legacy web services that are maybe a hurdle to, we do a great job of maybe publicizing what's going to be, but getting that information right back out there in a timely fashion of what happened at different events, I think would be great. So if I can use my technology background to help the town advance that communication platform and the vehicle that we use, that would be important. But most importantly, in the planning processes, it's really important that we have community members at our public meetings. And so just at a personal level, I would probably just try to advertise those public meetings and make sure that people know what the issues are that we're discussing at the planning board.
Definitely, definitely. What has been your biggest challenge so far in this campaign?
I think the biggest challenge is, as I said, I've never ran for a public position before, so this is my first endeavor. So just learning the hurdles and going through that process.
Seems like it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The town of Medfield has had requests to build several complexes for affordable housing. How will this impact your board committee or position?
So you're exactly right. I mean, as I mentioned, that's one of our big challenges as a town, is to address what we're going to do yet with our deficit. We have the plan, but we need to still make plans and make progress forward. So, but anytime any plan becomes before the planning board for approval, we have to evaluate from all the same facets, whether it's an affordable housing plan or not. We have to look at the public safety, we have to look at the neighborhood, we have to look at the natural resources, we have to look at the zoning laws. We have to look at all those things and ask ourselves, and we have to be pretty impartial and look at it from a project perspective and not just say it's an affordable housing project. However, there is no special components to say, oh, well, this is an affordable housing unit or things like that. It's just how it impacts our bottom line number. So that's more, we would look at it, how it would be favorable to our deficit, but we have to look at it just as a project level. So we have to make sure we're very impartial at that level.
Yeah, that's
which can be challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the other key thing is that, as a committee, as a board, is we play a really strong education role. And when you talk affordable housing, it can get interpreted by individuals very differently of what affordable housing means. And it's important to note that when we're talking about affordable housing, we're really talking about our state mandated subsidizing housing inventory, meaning that the property has to be on that list. So a home can certainly be affordable, but if it's not listed or deed restricted and on that list, it's not counting to our units and that 10% mandate. And where it gets really tricky is then there are all sorts of different rules about how many units a property can count towards on that list, depending on whether it's home ownership or rental. So it gets really tricky and confusing as to why things are on there or not. So it's also, for a planning board level, it's a real education effort when it comes to affordable housing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like people genuinely are pretty blind to the issue and the hard work that goes into it. Were you guys considering putting an affordable housing complex?
Well, so the planning board doesn't go forth and put the plans in for the affordable housing. The ideas and the development comes to us, although we're trying to encourage and be supportive of that. Currently, there's already some developments in place. The Larkin development that's going up on Hospital Road has a housing component to it. Bob Borelli's, you'll see the raised, it used to be the old bike shop, and that's raised up. That's going to have an affordable rental housing unit, apartment rentals. So, but as the production plan revealed, we really need to be trying to generate, as a town, 21 affordable units. So this isn't just a planning board issue, this is a town issue. The Board of Selectmen are working on it, and so we really have to continue working towards that goal of 21 units per year. By reaching those goals, the advantage is we are awarded certain periods for what we call safe harbor. Those periods can be 1 year or 2 years, and what safe harbor means is that a developer just can't come in and say, I'm going to do a 40B project and ignore our local laws and our local town zoning. So that's where you want to make sure you're trying to get into that safe harbor position, but yet you as a town still need to be advancing it forward. So that's the complication.
Yeah, I understand that. Despite that complication, is there a place you personally think that the housing could be?
The housing production plan talked about, and we actually, when we developed the housing production plan, we had a meeting where we looked at across the town. We had a map of the town, we looked at different sites, and said, okay, well, it's probably something that needs to be sprinkled and smaller, denser units, but one that's right at the top of the list that we hear under the works is an expansion of Tilden Village, which would actually, they have a piece of property, and if they can get particular funding and things of that nature, that would be like an ideal first project to really get going besides the other ones that are happening. But you need to not just have one, and it's not about just having one, it's about having several smaller, probably, units spread throughout the town.
Definitely. How does the town deal with the negative pushbacks that come from this idea?
Well, I think the negative pushbacks is that a lot of people will say affordable housing equates more kids and thus an impact on our schools and things of that nature. But affordable housing can be created and targeted to creative professionals, artists, writers. It can be created for restricted income seniors, like a Tilden Village project. It can be created for millennials that want to move back to Medfield and just kind of get off the ground. Like, where do you have a place to go live if you want to come back to town? Created from group homes for disabled adults. So it's not just about families with kids impacting our schools. So we have to address the negativity by making sure we're encouraging all types of plans for our community and addressing a diverse housing stock need for all members of our community.
That's important. Do you think that some of these pushbacks are also because of certain prejudices of lower middle class citizens, or about property values going down?
Actually, I thought about this question. This was a tough question. And I actually don't think it's either. Actually, I have heard a lot of scuttle about property values. But I think it's more, when these projects have come to us recently, it's really about the size and the density and the scale of it. Everything's come out at a larger amount of units than what Medfield is used to seeing. Whether it's 60 units or 80 units, it's more dense, more compact than what's our typical character of our town. And so I think that's probably, it's more about the size and scale of these projects that have been put forth that give it a negative connotation. And so what we have to do is we have to really work at finding those better projects that are smaller, that fit our character of our town, that finds that right balance. But we do need to encourage smaller, denser 40B projects so we can continue moving that deficit, reducing that deficit. So I don't think it's either one of those items. I think it's more about the size and the scale.
You now have additional time to address the audience.
So citizens of Medfield, I would say that I love a good challenge, and I think being on the planning board is definitely one. I embrace collaboration, and I'm a problem solver, and it would be an honor to continue serving you as a planning board member, and thank you for your support.
I want to thank Teresa James for participating in this interview. Please remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. Please vote at the Center on Icehouse Road on Monday, March 27th from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you, Caroline.